Welcome to the Cyber Intelligence Report. The internet has always been the focus of the privacy versus security. The Snowden leak of NSA documents highlighted the fact that agencies like the NSA are monitoring what you do. Governments have been attacking Tor, and it was considered safe no more. 58% of the current Tor external relay routers are susceptible to network-level attacks that allow attackers to de-anonymize Tor users. And American-Israeli researchers built a new Tor client called Astoria, focused on defeating autonomous systems that can break Tor's anonymity, making Tor a little safer for internet citizens. If you like this episode, share it with everyone and stay tuned for more cyber secrets at www.informationwarfarecenter.com.
When taking the Certified Hacking Forensic Investigator course from Information Warfare Center, you will walk away with the skills needed to perform a digital forensics investigation that can stand up in court. Our instructors have experience building and managing cyber forensic labs for DoD, governments, and law enforcement agencies worldwide.
Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Cyber Secrets. In this episode, we will cover online anonymity. The simple question, can one stay anonymous on the internet, is not one that can be answered in a simple manner. The short answer is both yes and no. By definition, anonymity is staying nameless in a crowd of many faces. The way the internet works is you have to give up your identity in order to communicate with others. Each device connected to the network has a unique fingerprint. Now imagine sending a message through the old snail mail system. You place the destination address on the outside of the message or package and then send it on its way. If you want a response, you have to add your return address. Once the message is in the system, there's a trace added at every point it touches, from the first source, or the point of entry, to the destination. Electronic devices work the same way. For one device to communicate with another, there has to be a source where the message enters the network and a destination where it's received. The term spoofing, for example, this refers to an attempt to hide or misdirect the recipient's knowledge of where the message originated from. Thinking back to a mail example, someone that didn't want their identity known may travel a long distance to place the message into the system or an outgoing mailbox. The Unabomber, Theodore Kaczynski, used this method to send mail bombs or low-tech explosives to those that he wanted to kill. He got caught because when he touched the system to send the packages, he left a forensic trace, i.e. an eyewitness to the activity of placing the package in the drop box. If he would have placed a return address for someone else, law enforcement would have investigated that spoofed recipient as well. Network analysis is based off the same mechanical process. Track back the recipient. If the suspect recipient is not the actually involved in the attack, You now have to trace back each hop or handoff of the message until it hits its true origin. In the Unabomber case, it was an outgoing postal drop box. In network forensics, that would be the last port on a switch or wireless access point, because everything does leave a trace. If one entity controlled all of the devices, and all of the devices kept detailed logs, every action could be tied back to its original source. Its true source, its true sender. But what if there wasn't an eyewitness? What if the eyewitness had amnesia or died shortly after? What if the suspect could change their appearance, their fingerprints, their genetic code at will? What if there was no log files or trace evidence? What if the actions were disguised in such a manner that they were unrecognizable to those watching it happen? These variables break the perfect system, make forensic investigation near impossible, and allow it to be feasible for true anonymity on the internet. The source and destination address on the internet comes in the form of an IP address or Internet Protocol address. Most of the individuals are using IP version 4, while most of the internet backbone is using IP version 6. If device A has an address of 192.168.0.13 and wants to talk to a device with the address of 10.0.0.42, both sides will need to know the route or path the message needs to take before they can communicate. Each IP address is also associated with what's called a MAC address. This is a fingerprint to the hardware. Think of an IP address as the address of an apartment complex, and the MAC address would be the number on the door of the recipient. Just like the number on the door of the recipient, a MAC address can be changed. Doing this throws a monkey wrench in locating who actually sent the message. If somebody wanted to keep the identity of the system that they used clear from the network traces, they could spoof somebody else's address. This new address is then believed to be true by all of the other devices on the network. Proxy servers are devices or hops that open up the message, repackage it, and then resend it using their own identity or fingerprint. If somebody were to trace back the origin, they would be left with the dead end at the proxy. If the proxy kept a ledger or a log of all messages it handled, the investigators would be able to pick up the new trail and analyze the new suspect's source. Many proxies on the internet do not log for this very reason. Many countries either do not have laws that require retention of log files, or they do not enforce the laws they do have. Those that run these types of proxies love these regions. If you were to encrypt a message, the message could not be understood by eavesdroppers unless they also had your secret key. With that key, like the intended recipient, they could unlock your secrets and read your communications. Both people and governments have been using encryption methods since the beginning of time to keep their secrets secret. They have also tried to be breaking keys of others to find out what secrets the others are hiding. In the digital age, the tools have changed, but the game stays the same. Many proxy servers now allow encryption tunnels, and users are even turning to VPN networks. Onion routing is a good example of proxies using encryption and of a government wanting to both secure their messages and keep their users, i.e. soldiers, agents, assets, and even reporters, anonymity safe. Onion routing employs an ever-changing chain of proxy servers and several layers of encryption. Now, the same methods are being used by those on the internet for that same purpose. There are several networks built off the onion routing theory. Many of these networks even have a proprietary routing layer of their own for those in that environment to communicate without ever leaving that virtual community. This allows for the creation of what is known as a darknet, or a network that is not found on the internet, yet it uses the internet as a backbone for communicating. Tor and Invisible Internet Protocol, or I2P, are two such onion routing networks that enable a darknet to exist, and they are both gaining popularity. Tor has been around for years and is a large resource bank. There's been a lot of money invested into the development of this network, and new proxies are coming online every day. It's this effort that keeps the environment alive and kicking. How can one stay anonymous? As previously covered, the perfect system of knowing the source of all communications has indeed been broken. However, it is important to understand that people still leave evidence behind just by being in existence. I'm not trying to be my normally cryptic self by saying this, but what I mean is that each individual has their own persona. This persona in itself has a unique fingerprint. To stay truly anonymous, one not only needs to follow the rules of the technology and physics, but also must follow the rules of psychology. A person cannot exist in two places at once. However, one can carry multiple personas that exist only in the areas that specific identity is needed. If someone wants to keep their identity secret, just like a comic book superhero, they would have to have a mask and become someone else. You rarely see Batman checking Bruce Wayne's email, Facebook, or bank accounts while he's on the prowl. There's a reason for this. As soon as someone accesses their personal accounts while wearing that proverbial mask, the safety of anonymity is then gone. There may be an eyewitness lurking in the shadows that can now tie the two identities together. To be anonymous, you need to become and stay someone else while in that realm. The inherent need for some to keep anonymous has generated a massive explosion in another anonymous communications mechanism. If you want to buy something and don't want everybody to know what you purchased, you can use an electro-cryptocurrency like Bitcoin or Litecoin. If one were to only use this currency when connected to a darknet, the original source or owner would stay secret. Many that use these digital tokens do not go the extra step, thus leaving hints of the evidence like bread trails back to their origin. The FBI recently caught pedophiles using the darknet by similar means. They caught them by sending an email to a target using a vulnerable version of Firefox to view the email. The FBI was able to compromise the computer and then have a call home from that suspect's computer. Since the suspects were only using the browser to communicate on the darknet, the attack code ran by itself and called home on the real IP address. This revealed the true origin of the suspect's identity. If the entire operating system only used to connect through Tor or the other darknets, then it would have been far more difficult, if not impossible, to track down the real identity. Criminal hackers, state-sponsored attackers, stalkers, drug dealers, pedophiles, and other undesirable elements use methods like this to stay anonymous all the time. So do freedom fighters, patriots, and those that believe in freedom of speech and the right to keep their private lives private. Now we come full circle. No matter what the reasoning, some want to stay hidden. The simple question, can one stay anonymous on the internet, is not one that can be answered with a simple manner. The short answer is both yes and no. If you'd like to know more about darknets, Tornet, or some of the other information covered in this episode, go to informationwarfarecenter.com/The Beginner's Guide to the Internet Underground. And also stay tuned to the future broadcasts of Cyber Secrets.
When taking the Certified Ethical Hacker Bootcamp from Information Warfare Center, you will walk away with the skill to do penetration testing the right way. From target reconnaissance to system exploitation, you will learn from our real-world experience. Now, you need to ask yourself, are you ready to learn from the best?
Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Cyber Secrets. In this episode, we will discuss what a darknet is, cover Graham's darknet market search engine, and darknet black markets. So, let's get started. The internet can be a dark place. The deeper you go, the darker it can get. In the far corners of the digital expanse, you may even stumble across networks so far removed from the internet that they themselves are called by a different name. A darknet. Realistically, though, a darknet is nothing more than a network that requires a special path to get to. Like the realm in Alice in Wonderland, Alice was in her own darknet of sorts after traveling through the rabbit hole. It could not be seen by those in the world she left behind. In geek terms, it is a private network where the connections are made by a select number of systems. Think of a darknet as a peer-to-peer network. For example, Freenet, GNUnet, private VPNs, I2P, and Tor are examples of this type of network. Some are easier to get to than others. One of the most popular darknets, as of this broadcast at least, is the Tor Onion network. This is the network we're going to discuss in this video. I want to bring up a relatively new darknet site called Graham's. It is a darknet market search engine. At this point, it searches 10 unique black market websites. At this time, those sites are 1776, Agora, the Andromeda Market, BlackBank, Bungie 54, Cloud9, Pandora, Pigeon, the Silk Road, and the Pirate Market. When we search for the keyword drugs, you can see contraband from all 10 sites has been added to the results queue. An interesting feature that Graham's added was the ability to filter out exactly what black markets you want to work with, as you can see when we search for the keyword passport. Now I'm going to do a quick search for Social Security Number, or SSN. And as you can see at the top of the list, there's counterfeit identities. One of the markets that Graham's works with, called 1776, has a commercial that I've included in this video to give you an idea of how serious these markets are and how they are thriving.
Hi, I'm Lisa. Welcome to 1776 Marketplace. I'm here to talk to you about the unique features of 1776 that make it the easiest, best, and most secure marketplace operating on the Tor network today. First, I'll show you how easy and quick the order process is, taking what can be a 2-hour or more process, and reducing it to just a few minutes. Second, I'll show vendors how they can have a 100% theft-proof escrow using an automated process developed by 1776, using Bitcoin's native escrow capability. Let's take a look at the order process. On other systems, the buyer must transfer his Bitcoins into the site escrow before he can make a purchase. Generally, the site requires at least 3 and often more confirmations before the deposit will register. This can force the buyer to plan his day around a purchase. Even more frustrating, if the price of Bitcoins spikes, the buyer is forced to transfer more coins to escrow and wait yet again. On the 1776 system, the buyer chooses an item, specifies a quantity and shipping type, then presses the order button. He is then presented with the total cost in Bitcoins for the order, and a series of fields in which to enter his address. Unlike other systems, the 1776 system automatically encrypts the buyer's address with the vendor's public key. After entering the address information, the buyer clicks the Confirm button. The buyer is then immediately presented with payment information. This includes a QR code, which can be scanned by a smartphone wallet to automate the payment process. Once the buyer has sent the payment amount to the provided address, within 10 seconds, the 1776 back-end engine will have registered the payment and updated the order to reflect it. With this system, you can log in, choose the item you want, pay for it, know the payment is registered and is awaiting the approval of the vendor, in as little as 1 minute. Further, your funds are 100% safe from theft in an escrow jointly held by the vendor and the site.
After all this effort to compete with the Silk Road and the Black Market Reloaded, Atlantis shut down shortly after the alleged founder of the original Silk Road was arrested and the site seized by the FBI. Many of the darknet markets and sites died during this time period. However, like the darknet market Hydra's name suggests, you take off one head, many others will take their place. Many people feared the Tor network was doomed and waited to hear for the final news. Many reported the death of Tor, but in reality, it is hanging on strong and even starting to live again. So, where do you find new sites? If you haven't heard of this next site by now, you should get off the internet right now. The Pirate Bay, or the piratebay.se, is the galaxy's most resilient BitTorrent site. The founders found themselves in a bit of hot water since most of the people that use the Pirate Bay are sharing content they do not own, and this is considered intellectual property theft. However, the Pirate Bay has a new Onion site address now. The reason why they did this was to get past country censorship. The Pirate Bay is the most well-known search engine for BitTorrents on the internet. Remember though, using BitTorrent is not illegal, but downloading pirated software and movies or music is. To show you how easy it is to find illegally copied work, we're going to take a quick look at the top movies, music, and software that's listed on the Pirate Bay at the time of this recording. On the other hand, there's a lot of legally shared content on this site. Some musicians and artists have even dubbed it the Promo Bay because it helps them market their group. Many feel that this is the future of media. I even have added a few of my own pieces to this site to share. The truth is, there's a lot of bad content on the internet. It naturally gets worse though when there's no accountability due to anonymity. There are little to no rules when there's little to no risk of getting caught. This Lord of the Flies mentality sometimes does take over. This happens in sites like 4chan, and is happening in the darknets. Tor is, in a sense, a fledgling internet following in the footsteps of its bigger brother. If you turn the wrong corner and open the wrong door, you may come across some extreme evil. As you have seen, there are drugs, fake IDs, and other contraband in these marketplaces. There is also much worse floating out there outside those market sites, such as assassination services and child pornography. Law enforcement is in a constant battle to catch these types of criminals, and have even been successful by using computer exploits or malware to identify these suspects. The darknet is not all evil, though. There are many useful sites in this space, and almost all of them are supporting freedom of speech and allowing voices as citizens to be heard even out of the most oppressive of regimes. Tor is an extremely useful tool to exercise your freedom of speech from government censorship. Here is a list of search engines in the darknet for you. Some search from the Tor network out to the surface web, and some search the Tor network itself. DuckDuckGo is a surface web engine that touts that they do not track you like Google does. You just received a small glimpse of what can be found in the darknet black markets. You can even find botnets to rent and bulk credit cards to purchase. But keep in mind, not everything in this space is illegal or shady. With that said, it does seem easier to find in the fringes of the digital deep space. If you'd like to learn more about advanced information security, InfoSec Institute is a great resource at infosecinstitute.com.
Welcome to another episode of Cyber Secrets.
In this episode, we're going to cover Tor onion routing over Kali Linux. We're not going to use the Tor browser bundle, we're going to actually use proxy chains and the Tor installation through apt-get. What I'm going to start off with now is a baseline. So I'm going to run Iceweasel, which is a web browser, and go to a site called whatsmyipaddress.com. This will give you a geolocation of where you're actually at. So you can see my IP address is 148.240.4.95, and that's in Mexico City. So now what I'm going to do is do apt-get space install space Tor, and this is going to download and install the Tor service. This is not the Tor browser bundle, this is the actual service. So any tool that you use can be bound within the Tor network. It does take a little bit of time to download. And once this is set up, it actually works great with a program called Proxy Chains. Proxy Chains has the ability to go through a bunch of different proxies that you put into a config file, but it's already set up to 127.0.0.1, port 9050, in the config file after you install Tor. So we're going to open it up right now and run Iceweasel right through Proxy Chains. And as you can see, nothing's happened. It wasn't able to connect. We close it, but look in the log file and it did try to go through proxy chains. The reason is we need to start the service. So once you download the Tor service, you need to type in service space Tor space start, wait about a minute, then do it again. So proxy chains space Iceweasel space whatsmyipaddress.com, and now you can see we have a new IP address going through a Tor network. To stay with the browser theme, I'm going to download a software called Lynx. So that's apt-get space install space LYNX. Then once it's there, I'm going to run it through proxy chains just to show you that not all tools run very well through proxy chains. Lynx is very special because it does go through the console, but so does proxy chains. And as you can see, it's mixing up the information. Now just because we installed the Tor service does not mean we're actually using Tor. You have to use proxy chains. So again, I'm going to run Iceweasel without proxy chains to remind you that we still have the raw IP address. So it's not just browsers that can use the Tor network. So what we're going to do is open up a tool called FileZilla. FileZilla is an FTP software, and we're going to run proxy chains space FileZilla just to show you that it does use proxy chains quite well. So type in a host, hit Quick Connect, and as you can see in the background, it does start to propagate information into proxy chains. Let's use a tool that's a little bit more complex. We're going to use Nmap and scan a target. So you just use basic Nmap. Again, it's going to come with your raw IP address, so anybody running any sort of IDS will be able to find out where you came from. Here's a trick though. Nmap uses raw sockets, and that does not really work well with the Tor network. So when you do proxy chains, space Nmap, and do the same target, it's not going to come up with the same results. A lot of times it'll say it cannot resolve through DNS. So what we're going to have to do is find the IP address. So there are some limitations to doing this. However, once you're able to get the IP address, which is simple as doing ping or ping space the target domain name, you grab that IP and then just run the same command. The Nmap space whatever parameters that you're going to use, and then a space the IP address. Now I'm going to use a program called OWASP-Zap. So proxy chains, space OWASP-Zap. And this is an application that allows you to test the security of a website. So basically, it's a vulnerability scanner for web applications. It's actually really nice, especially for being free. OWASP is the Open Web Application Security Project, and they do a lot of really good work in the application security realm. I do a lot of pen testing, and I do use a lot of extra IP addresses, because sometimes people will block me during even a scan or when I'm actually attacking the system. So this is one way that you can bounce around without having to have a VPN. It's a free, cheap, easy resource. Another cool tip is, if you want to see all the content that you've typed into the command line, type in history, and to get rid of it, type in history-c. Now for a recap. I was using Kali Linux, installed the Tor service, started the Tor service, and now proxy chains will allow me to run any application using the Tor service. Now just a reminder, don't break the law, but as you're on the internet, stay safe and have fun.
If you like this video, share it with the world. Stay tuned for more cyber secrets. If you'd like to learn more about advanced information security, the Information Warfare Center offers training and certification boot camps to cover your educational needs. Visit us at www.informationwarfarecenter.com.
When taking the Certified Ethical Hacker Bootcamp from Information Warfare Center, you will walk away with the skill to do penetration testing the right way. From target reconnaissance to system exploitation, you will learn from our real-world experience. Now, you need to ask yourself, are you ready to learn from the best?
Welcome to another episode of Cyber Secrets.
Good morning. In this episode, we're going to talk about Tor onion routing with Kali Linux, but compare proxy chains with Tor socks. So first off, we're going to install Tor on Kali by doing apt-get --install --Tor. This takes a few minutes, so once it's done, we'll go ahead and then compare the difference between proxy chains and Tor socks. Now let's run proxy chains, and then Iceweasel, and then what's my IP address. And as you can see, nothing happens. We'll do the same thing with Tor socks. Tor socks, Iceweasel, and what's my IP address. As you can see, nothing happens. We're going to have to start the Tor service first. So we're going to go and close here, and just type in service --Tor --start. Once it's started, we'll go and run the two items again. Now we're going to run proxy chains, Iceweasel, and what's my IP address again to show you that we are on a Tor network or exit relay. We're going to do the same thing with Tor socks. As you can see, we're on a Tor exit relay. Now let's do something a little bit different. I'm going to do proxy chains and then go to a website called Start Page. It's very common with the Tor network and the Tor browser project. Let's go to Start Page. We're going to look for a search engine called Grams SearchNet. So Grams can only be gone to on the darknet. And that's, you can see the website up above. We're going to do proxy chains, Iceweasel, and then Grams. As you can see, you cannot get to it through proxy chains. You can, however, get to it through Tor or Tor socks. The reason is because proxy chains doesn't do a really good job with DNS. With Tor socks, it does a great job with the .onion DNS. We're going to do a couple searches, see passports. We're definitely able to use the Grams search engine. Let's go and do drugs. That's a common thing on this search engine. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and look for botnets, just to show you that you can go to .onion addresses using Tor sock. And to mix things up a little bit, instead of using Iceweasel, I'm going to use a text browser called Lynx. Go to the same website, Grams search engine, and as you can see, it is just text-based. It's a little bit safer, still can get cookies, but you're not going to run into a lot of the potential vulnerabilities like you would with any sort of scripting languages like JavaScript or VBScript. And as you can see, I am searching through Grams. Now I'm going to go to Agora. Here's one of the downsides about Lynx. Is sometimes if you go to a website that takes any sort of CAPTCHA, any graphic representation, you may not be able to use it. If you ever need to do an assessment on a .onion address or Tor network, there are some potential problems. For example, proxy chains does not really work that well going back to the DNS issue, but Tor socks does. Sometimes, however, all the ports that you scan, you don't come up with anything, so you need to pick specific ports. Now I'm going to scan Torch. Torch is another search engine which does not specialize in darknet black markets. This just does your basic darknet. So, going to go Tor socks, the Nmap. Again, turning off ping, forcing it to TCP connect, and trying to do a faster scan. Again, once we try to scan everything, nothing pops up. But if you scan specific ports, you will find something. And as you can see, when we do scan, port is open.
If you like this video, share it with the world. Stay tuned for more cyber secrets. welcome to another episode of Cyber Secrets.
We have a request for communication.
A Rick's Progress story.
If you liked this video, share it with the world. Stay tuned for more cyber secrets.
Good morning! Welcome to another episode of Cyber Secrets. In this episode, we're going to talk about BitTorrents and anonymity. Some of the tools we're going to use are TrueCrypt, Portable Apps, uTorrent, and a proxy called BTGuard, the Tor Onion browser, and the Pirate Bay. So let's get started. Let's start off with the idea. You've just released your flagship product, a software that can revolutionize your industry. The new blockbuster movie your studio spent hundreds of millions of dollars creating. Your music album that hasn't even been released yet. You pick your intellectual property poison. Here's the problem. Over 100,000 people around the world now have the fruits of your hard work. To top it off, they now have it for free. How could this have happened? How can you track them down? Well, let's find out how they can continue to evade your relentless tracking. One of the programs that I like is Portable Apps. It allows you to get all kinds of applications and put them onto a USB thumb drive. This can kind of evade some of the forensics capability. So we're going to emulate this temporarily and make a folder called PAB, or Portable Apps BitTorrent. Once we download the files, we're going to put them into the folder and then treat that like a USB. So all we're going to have to do is copy everything from the folder onto a USB thumb drive. So once we download the file, again make sure it's in the PAB, and start the file. Now we're going to start the Tor browser bundle from torbrowserproject.org. This is going to allow us to go to the Tor network with little to no effort. Common proxy that's being used out there is called BitGuard. The reason why it's popular is because they do not store local log files. For example, on their video, it says without BitGuard, your local IP is going to be seen everywhere on the network when you download. However, when you get BTGuard, you connect directly to their service and they act as a proxy. But what's interesting about them is they also have some encryption software that you can use to connect to their proxy, so even the ISP can't see what you're doing. So now let's install Portable Apps. This is going to be our base program. Once we install it, you're going to want to make sure to install it in that folder we just created, which is the PAB. And we're going to keep the Launch Portable Apps platform on. We're going into Finish, because a lot of times what it'll do is it'll search the internet or the site for programs to install. But as you can see on the right hand side, there's nothing in it. Portable Apps is just the red program or the container program for everything else. Just check the internet, and now we're going to try to find uTorrent. So let's go and scroll down to the internet section. Once we find uTorrent, we'll go ahead and install that as well. So we just installed Portable Apps, and now we're installing uTorrent. Once that's complete, we're going to be partially way there. The next thing we're going to do is run the Tor browser install, and then install it into the Portable Apps folder. So it's going to be the PAB folder / Portable Apps. Now it's installed. We'll open it up, just verify, and it is there. Now let's open up Tor Portable Browser. She goes in the PAB / Portable Apps. And here we're just going to name it as TBB, as Tor Browser Bundle. Going to install. This does take a little bit of time. Once it's done, we're going to go and uncheck Run Tor Browser Bundle and finish. The reason why we're doing that is so we can open up the Tor Browser Bundle. You go to Apps, then refresh app icons, and now we can see both the Tor Browser Bundle and the uTorrent. Now let's open them up just to make sure they still run. Open up the Tor Browser Bundle. Once it starts, we're going to verify the IP address. Now the first thing you want to do when you get the Tor browser open is check to see if you are on the Tor network. So if you click on Test Tor Network Settings, and just make sure that you get an IP address from a Tor exit router. And as you see, it says, congratulations, this Tor browser is configured to use Tor. That's great. So now let's get rid of the installs, because we don't need that anymore once we copy everything in this folder over the USB drive. So now that we have uTorrent installed, the first thing we're going to do is set up some sort of proxy in it. And since we have BTGuard, we'll go ahead and start there. But to get into the area, you need to go to Options. Then you need to go down to Preferences. There's a section called Connections. That's where the proxy server information's at. But before we can put it in, we need to know what it is. So BTGuard, we log in, and they have a nice little link over there called Install BTGuard, which gives you all the pertinent information, such as the domain name you need to connect to, the port, and all the other relevant info. So at this point, we see it says proxy.btguard.com. So go ahead and hit SOX5 proxy, put in the name, and then we're also going to need to change the port. On this one, it's 1025. And as you can see, it needs authentication, so we're going to put in the username and password. And we'll go ahead and block that out for you so you don't see what mine is. And then as you see, the rest of the content is all checked out, such as use proxy for hostname lookups, use proxy for peer-to-peer connections, disable DNS lookups. So this is going to prevent the connections from the uTorrent to go outside of the encrypted traffic or through the proxy. So we're going to close it, set it up again, and everything's there, so that's good to go. And this is how a lot of the people that are downloading things that are extremely hard to catch are doing it. The problem comes down to, as soon as they're downloading it that way, you have to go to places like BTGuard or some of the other places to get the records or get the log information. If they're not keeping it, that's a problem. So now as you can see, with the Tor browser bundle, we're going to the Pirate Bay. And we're going to look up some of the videos that I've uploaded there, which is the Cyber Secrets episodes. So we're going to right-click on one of the magnet links, and the magnet links are a little bit more anonymous than your basic BitTorrent links, but they transfer practically the same. I'm going to go and add the torrent, and sometimes it does take a little bit of time to get the rest of the information for it. So we're going to go and hit OK, and let's go ahead and look up one more torrent, a smaller torrent file, so you can actually see it download. So we're going to go back to the Pirate Bay window, and once we do, we're looking at, let's download from the user itself and the Beginner's Guide to the Internet Underground. It's a relatively small file. add this back in, or Control U is a shortcut. Go ahead and hit OK. And as you see, download speed, it's only about a 5 meg file, give or take, and it's downloading relatively quickly. The cool part about these BitTorrent programs is they chop the file up into pieces, and then everybody's transferring its own little piece. That makes an extremely efficient file transfer protocol. The problem comes down to intellectual property theft. So at this point, once it's downloaded, go ahead and right click on it, open folder, continue, and now you can see the file. And also look at the path. So the path is going to be in the Portable Apps BitTorrent, in the uTorrent under Data, and then under Downloads. Now let's say the internet pirate wants to go one more layer of anti-forensics. What they'll end up doing is encrypting the drive or encrypting the content that they're going to put on the USB. So we're going to do that by using TrueCrypt. So with TrueCrypt, the easiest way to do that is just go to Extract, and then once you extract the content, you don't have to install it with registries or anything in that aspect. But once we put it into the folder, you're going to have all the tools that you need to be able to decrypt and encrypt specific volumes and entire drives. So at this point, we're going to go to New Folder, just call it Pirate, and then store the Portable Apps content into that folder. So at this point, we want to prep it to be able to put into a USB thumb drive. So at this point, we're going to start up TrueCrypt. Then we're going to create a new volume. This new volume is going to be an encrypted container. It can contain 2 encrypted, but we're just doing the 1 level. Hidden containers can be inside the normal encrypted container for plausible deniability. So we're going to call this specific file pagefile.sys. Next, yes, and then once we finish it, we choose the encryption we want. We're going to only choose about 500 meg. That's relatively small. People that are normally doing this are usually getting a lot larger file. So the password we're going to use is test. So you can see it, just a very simple, stupid one. Hit next, do some sort of entropy, hit create, just format it in a FAT file system. Now we're going to be able to mount it and use it. So once it's finished, we'll go ahead and hit OK. Hit exit out of here, because what we're going to do is put all of those the content in the pirate folder directly in that drive. We're going to save it as the P drive, open up the pagefile.sys or that encrypted container, and then mount it. Put in the password test. Once the password's in there, we can now see that as our P drive. Go ahead and scroll down. We can now see local drive P. With that said, we just copied the pirate folder over. We're going to open it up, open Start or Portable Apps. Now this is running from the encrypted container. We just started the browser, and this Tor browser bundle just went to Pirate Bay, and everything is now located in that encrypted container. So again, what we can do at this point is then copy all that content back to the USB, so the Tor browser can encrypt the anonymous traffic onto the websites, but people still do not want you using the browser for the actual BitTorrent, because that slows the entire network down. The proxy or VPN service, like BTGuard or any of the others, help encrypt the traffic for the BitTorrent. And TrueCrypt offers an additional layer of security. But again, with Portable Apps, it's all mobile. Now that we've just covered only one of the ways that some people will actually be able to download intellectual property without being traced down to the original IP address, what are some of the solutions to prevent this or stop it? Well, unfortunately, there's no 100%. There's never 100%. But some of the solutions from the inside out would be to whitelist all the applications that are running on your systems to prevent unknown applications from running. So you're going to deny all except only the specific trusted. Blacklist all known Tor entry-exit relays. Blacklist BitTorrent traffic. And then force all your traffic to go through a centralized proxy that requires authentication. What this authentication will then do is allow you to, again, minimize unknown traffic. If you're trying to find somebody from the outside, this gets a lot more difficult. What you're hoping for from an investigation standpoint is that they're either A, not using a proxy or not using encryption, and you'll be able to immediately tie them back to the original IP address. If they are going to a proxy, what you're hoping is that that proxy is going to record the traffic or log the content, such as a proxy called HideMyAss. They claim that they didn't record or store traffic, but they did, and a lot of people ended up getting arrested because of the log content. Now, let's say realistically that they are behind quite a few proxies, either through Tor or some of the commercial proxy VPN services out there. Well, through an investigation, how can you find out where they're actually coming from? Realistically, some of the vendors, even law enforcement, have taken pages from the hacker manuals. So what it comes down to is they have some sort of call home function. Either it could be an update or some sort of license for an offsite. What calls home, and at that point, it usually goes outside the proxy because the proxy is specifically usually just for the browser. If they're VPN, that's another issue. But if it's a proxy, then they can still get the originating IP address. If you'd like to learn more about advanced information security, InfoSec Institute is a great resource at infosecinstitute.com.